And we are starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, here we go. Good evening, or perhaps good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be in the world. I am Sean Dent, and welcome to this next episode of Unlocking Real Estate. And in this one, I'm going to be speaking with Thomas Ghormley about his 40 years of experience in Costa Rica. So before I do that, I want to introduce him. Now, I'm going to try something new here and share the screen. I normally share my screen on Zoom, not on this platform, but here we go. It is working. So this was a post from a few days ago that Thomas's brokerage put out. So I thought I'd read this. It's a great introduction to him. So Thomas Ghormley, our distinguished emeritus broker and agent at Century 21 Pura Vida, is a cornerstone in the real estate industry. His extensive experience is complemented by a commitment to knowledge, ethics, and strong moral values. Beyond real estate, Tom serves as the president of Rotary in Garabito. Apologies if I'm getting all of these Spanish names wrong. I'm just doing it in my native accent today, showcasing his dedication to community service and leadership. As a seasoned politician and religious advisor, his influence is far-reaching. Tom's enduring success is evident in his active participation in open houses, meetings, and his guiding role within our team, solidifying his position as a respected and cherished figure in our community. So that's a great introduction to who Thomas is beyond real estate, but let's get him in and let's talk about his experience in real estate as well. So here we go, Thomas. I finished tooting your horn for you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Oh, quickly, actually, before we start, I forgot to ask you, do you prefer Thomas or Tom?
In English, I'm Tom. In Spanish, I'm Tomas.
So we'll go with Tom then, if that's okay with you.
Great.
If that's okay. So I just read your introduction, and just quickly, actually, to any audience members that are watching as we are getting started, please feel free to leave a comment. If you have any questions, specific questions for Tom, I've already got that wrong.
Thomas is great.
I would ask him as we go through. So yeah, that introduction was a great introduction, really, to, well, not just you as a real estate professional, but to everything you do. But it didn't say very much about your real estate experience specifically. So maybe could you give us a quick overview, like the bullet points of your real estate career, Tom?
Sure, absolutely. And part of that is how I got here. Back in 1970s, my brother came to this country and discovered it when it was almost unknown. Not a lot of people think Costa Rica is Puerto Rico in the United States. But it was a wonderful place. I came in 79 on a surf trip and fell in love with it. And it ended up coming here so much that finally in 82, I moved here. And I worked as a journalist, and then I actually served 2 years with the United States Peace Corps, and then got into business. And in the 90s, early 91, I started an investment company for people looking for investments, mostly in real estate down here. So since 91, I've had that profession and worked out of San Jose, the capital. Costa Rica is a small country about the size of West Virginia, if that makes sense to anyone. Very literate country. In 1948, they eliminated the army, and so all that money that would go to wasted military is used on healthcare and education. So it's a very educated and healthy population, which makes us unique in the area. And we've been a democracy for over 200 years. So it's a very stable country and a very good place for investment. So real estate came along naturally. At that time, there were no franchises, no big names down here. So I just worked independently and under my own corporation, and did a lot of projects, especially up in the Guanacaste, which is our northern Pacific province. And there, at that time, actually, there was so little to sell that mostly my first about decade, I built projects. I built developments for different investors along the coast in northern Costa Rica. But finally the franchise started coming down, and so I recognized immediately that having a name like Century 21 would bring a lot of benefits, not only because people know that we have an ethics standards and we have a training standards that are recognized the world around, and also the networking of 35,000 offices. So that was important to me, and it's worth every penny of the 10% of my commissions that I paid to have that name, Century 21. And so the boom came here early on in the 2000s, and I opened 4 offices around the country, just covering the whole different areas, mostly the coastal areas, which obviously are very popular because our beaches are absolutely beautiful, but also up in the highlands where there are farms and ranches. So we had a variety of different types of real estate to sell. So that went very well, and the boom was fantastic, but the bust in 2008 was also fantastic. So in the other sense. So I consolidated all of the stuff down here to Playa Jaco. Jaco Beach is in the middle of the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. And although our office has listings all around the general Pacific area, we concentrate here. That being said, without a multiple listing service, which it seems has been impossible to get one started here, we are limited more geographically than most real estate in the world, where you can cover a larger area because you have knowledge of pricing and comparatives and things like that. So we have a good network, of course, with the Century 21 offices here in the country, and then other agencies here. It's interesting. What we have substituted for multiple listing service is a WhatsApp chat, and WhatsApp is very useful because the minute I have a listing, I can put that on a WhatsApp chat, and all of the 100 realtors in our area see it. And also, if I need something, I just immediately get on that WhatsApp chat and ask, and I'll get people sending me the links to their listings. So we work very collegially here, which is nice. I must say, there's the coastline. Most of the realtors are expats or foreigners, although our office, for example, we have about 50% Costa Ricans in our 21 agents we have here in the office. So I was very successful, kept going here. The boom has come back. Right now, there are 7 condominium towers going up in Jaco. Thankfully, Jaco is unique in that it's the most popular beach in Central America, and so there's a concentration here of vacation rentals and vacation condos. However, Costa Rica is well known for its environment, and a lot of people come here because of our stance on the environment. And so a lot of the other areas near us, even the beautiful beaches just south, have very strong restrictions on what can be built there, which is good and bad. It helps keep the place beautiful and bring people in, and it also brings more precious prices because there's a limited amount of place you can be near the beach. So that's how I got started, and the office has been very well. I'm Broker Emeritus now. I've sold most of my shares in the company to a large developer here who's continuing on with it. So my work now is mostly with clients that I've accumulated over the years, and friends that come down and buy real estate here. So I do a mix of commercial and residential real estate. That's about the extent of my history. So,
no, fantastic. I mean, I was thinking, do I interrupt and remind you that I said bullet points, and because I want to go into all of these points individually, but then I thought, no, you're telling a great story, Tom, so I'm not going to interrupt. No, but I have a few. There's a few key points from all of that I really wanted to focus on. But just to give a comment, I think what's really interesting about that is the span of time that you've covered. As you say, you got in there, you got into Costa Rica when it was very much unknown. You've experienced the boom, and you've come down again quite dramatically from the sounds of things, and then back up the other side of it. So that's something I have a lot of connections who are new, shall we say, newer in their career. They're just getting started, and that's something that perhaps they have no experience of yet. So, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you have any thoughts on kind of looking back like how really it's a mindset question. What's the right mindset to have when thinking about a long career and how to prepare for it when you know it can go up and down and you've
Right.
experienced it yourself?
Absolutely. You have to have a long-term vision. And I know when I was younger too, and the business was so good here, we were just going out and killing it, and it was great. But the evolution of real estate in this country, and I'm sure other countries similar to ours, I would consider us a developing country, not an underdeveloped country, changed a lot. There were no rules and regulations. Even now, it's very loosely regulated. There's a board of realtors here that's a voluntary board, but important for us to be on. And just now, the government is starting to have regulations on how we bring money in because the U.S. is, you know, Homeland Security have created a bunch of requirements for bringing money overseas to avoid money laundering and trafficking and stuff like that. So I would say it's important to set yourself up and be well organized for the long haul and not jump in too deeply. Even in personally, I know a lot of realtors that grabbed onto bargains back when they were bargains, but grabbed onto a little too many and ended up having a lot of trouble later on. So it's important to keep your head on straight. You know, don't lose your head while those around you are losing theirs, as they say. Preparation is important. Being, like I say, being well organized and knowing your inventory and knowing who your clients are. I have experienced the change from taking photographs and writing letters and putting them in an envelope and mailing them to now, through faxes, through email, now WhatsApp, and so there's a huge evolution technologically, and it's very important to stay up on those things. I have actually, because I'm 70 and not that anxious to learn about all the new social media, I have a full-time person who works on social media for me and puts all my product out on social media, and then our office also manages. So I really encourage people, especially overseas, to consider looking at the franchises. Even though there's a cost, it's well worth it because they give you a lot of background, they give you a lot of tools, they get a lot of training, and the networking is very special too. So those are things that a younger person should pay attention to as they set up. Reputation too is very important, and I joined Rotary a long time ago because I like to serve people and I like to help the community. Rotary International is a great organization, but it's also an incredible network too. And so a lot of my continuing clients are fellow Rotarians from in Costa Rica or international Rotarians. Rotary's in 200 countries. So I would encourage everyone to get involved in some type of social organization like that serves the community, because you get your reputation is improved and you get great contacts within the community. And I mentioned to you earlier, I just got elected to the city council because I'm a person that's known in town and I'm known to be an ethical business person. And that's important because every one of those things are something that a buyer looks at and says, who is this person I'm dealing with? How can I trust them? And do they know what they're doing? So it's something that has to be ongoing, continuing in your career. And I'm also involved in the local church here, so there's things like that are ways you get into the community as much as you can, because, and especially in politics, I want this community to improve because I care for the people here, but also it makes it better for my business. So it's a win-win, and that's something we have to pay attention to. Don't just jump into this business because it looks like good money when you make a big commission, and be careful too. That was the other point, that don't go out and spend your entire commissions right away. Don't buy the fancy new car every time you get a big commission. Keep some behind, because 2008 jumped upon us pretty quickly and it could happen again.
I feel like I should do a quick summary there, because I think you just dropped a lot of gems there, a lot of really important pieces of information that I can appreciate. Then again, I'm not someone in their early 20s, for example, I'm not someone or just getting started. I have had some experience of getting too carried away and failing at things and unrecognizing. So I can appreciate how good some of those points were. So I think that point you were making, though, about your reputation, that's quite an achievement. If you're, as you mentioned it there briefly, but just to repeat it, you told me before we went live that you've been elected city councillor, which is, I think that's an amazing achievement for someone who's not a native of any country, because there is always a prejudice, or there is always an assumption, that you're not one of us, so to speak. But you've clearly, the fact that you have not only integrated into your local community, but also are seen as being an ethical businessman in real estate, which doesn't have necessarily the best reputation sometimes. And that's a big concern for some people. I know a lot of ethical people. I seem to attract them, perhaps. I don't know, but there is a full well there's a reputation, isn't there, about real estate agents around the world. It's not just in any one country. So that's a great achievement. And obviously, there's not one single thing that's contributed to that. But to summarize, you would recommend people go out and get involved in local organizations, join some kind of community which serves your local community, and do it not only for the networking opportunities, but also to get involved and be known and to integrate into your community. Would you say that's a good summary?
Yes, and it's important to remember that it's not just the deal in front of you, and here because it was so unregulated for so long, real estate was sort of the Wild West, and we had some very unscrupulous people come down, and that partly what caused the big crisis in 2008. We had developers coming down and selling properties they didn't even own, and all kinds of shenanigans that really hurt our whole industry. And so, it's important to be vigilant, and it's important to belong to organizations like the Board of Realtors here, where you're regulated on your ethics and what you can do, because it'll ruin the reputation for everybody every time we get some unscrupulous developer or some realtor who doesn't play by the rules. So I think that's important to watch for who you're dealing with, and what the product is you're selling. Be sure that it's not some fly-by-night guy who's claiming he's building a 20-story condo tower, and you end up selling condos in nothing. You have to be very careful. One of the things that's happened here that's been very good for us in that main manner is that all the developers now work with escrow accounts, long-term trust accounts, where your money, your deposit on a pre-construction is put into an escrow account that is not controlled by the buyer at all. It's an independent third party who holds that money until the project's finished, and then that's released. And the same with even regular deals on a house or a condo from an individual. Your deposit is put into a safe account with an escrow company who doesn't let that money get released until the title is transferred. And that's very important. I think that's something too, is that learning the laws of a country and knowing exactly which properties have what kind of title. Here in Costa Rica, for example, all the beaches are technically public. And so a lot of the beaches, about 90%, are concession properties, and that's important for people to know, because it's a leasehold from the government. It's a 20-year renewable lease, and you pay a canon, which is just like a property tax, about the same value, but it's a little different from owning fully titled property. And so that has something you have to be aware of, and all the laws relating to property you have to be aware of it. And I know a lot of people, even realtors here, don't have the best Spanish. That I think is something that's very bad, and you need to be fluent in the country you're in, at least enough to understand the laws and to understand current events as they're going on, to know what's going to be affecting you in the future. And I think that's a key. So many people come down here and with no Spanish, which is fine, but then they don't even try to attempt to learn it, and that's it's impressive, like going around with one eye closed. So I think preparation like that, preparation is key. And so getting yourself as up to speed in the local as a local is very important. You have to know what your environment is, and know what your own goals are, and how to get yourself the tools you need to do what you need to do.
You brought up language. I want to ask you about that. But before that, I have a couple of comments that I want to bring up. So I'm not sure if this is Mario or Martha. It looks like a shared account. But do you know this? Do you know do you know this couple? They say,
Yeah,
great person and realtor.
yeah, they a real good colleague here in town and in our office. A very effective and powerful salesperson. So Martha's a great person.
And I've got another one here from Jack. So I have known Tom for a number of years, and he truly cares about people, and is completely honest and ethical, and a fountain of knowledge about the markets and the economic factors throughout the country. So, you've got good reviews already.
I guess
on
I
LinkedIn.
have to buy people a beer or two.
Don't say that on live. You shouldn't say that live, because now everyone knows. So I wanted to, you brought up learning the language. Now, I deal with this issue in reverse, so to speak, because I'm usually helping people who live in, for example, people who live in Spain, who work in, or who want to work with people from abroad. But I think the same principles apply. I think a lot of people do the same thing that you've described, where they jump in first, i.e., they move to a country where they want to work, or they decide they're going to work with international clients, and then realize later, oh, I need to work on my language skills. But sometimes it's an afterthought. It's an afterthought for some people, or it's a problem that they never really solve. And obviously, you've just expressed your opinion. You think that, I agree. I'm quite biased, but I do also agree that it is important to learn the language that you're going to be working in and living in. But when we spoke on our first call, you told me that you did something which I think is not so common, or at least not so common in my experience. If I remember correctly, you told me that you did 6 months of intensive Spanish when you first arrived. Is that correct? Am I remembering that correctly, Tom?
No, you're right. I decided that, after coming here a number of times, and that's important too. Some people hear a dream and they come down immediately, and they're not prepared to live in a different environment and in third world country. And like I say, even though this is a developing world, there's some real differences. On the surface, it looks a lot like Hawaii, but the culture and the maturity of the industry here is very different. And so, you come and get your feet wet and see what it's like. Be sure you want to live here. And also, it's important. Do your kids want to be here, or do they miss their friends at home in Cleveland, or wherever? And so I took 6 months, 4 hours a day of Spanish, because I knew I was going to be here, and I decided I wanted to get that done. And so by the end of 6 months, I was fairly fluent. And then you pick it up, just in conversations and being with people. But that's a very important part of it. And getting into the culture, not being an expat and only hanging out with gringos or foreigners, and getting into the culture itself. It's much more enjoyable and fun. You live a fuller life than just being limited by who you can talk with. Now, with modern technology, a lot of our transactions, with even WhatsApp, it's so easy to translate. It's very helpful, and that's a great tool, but it's no substitute for really understanding the language yourself.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And it's also just, you can always use the translate button, but you're never 100% certain. Or sometimes as well, it might translate, but it makes a mistake. I've had that many times. It's really good now. Yeah, translation software is amazing compared to what it was 10 years ago. It doesn't make anywhere near the amount of silly mistakes that can cause issues in communication, but it's not the same thing. And but would you recommend that approach? Because one of the things I do with clients is I try to encourage them to think. A lot of people who have struggled to learn the language, because it's not always an easy thing, they think they think they can't do it, basically. And I often encourage people to really go intensively at it for a short period of time, because I think I know that you can make a big difference. But you went even further. To me, 4 hours a day for 6 months, that's even That's I mean, I would love to do that, but I think most people realistically can't do that, can they? Most people can't take not a holiday from life, but they can't take 6 months to really focus on something like that for that amount of time. So, what would you recommend? But would you recommend that in the beginning? Would you say to anyone, go for it? You need to prioritize it. You need to.
The reality is that you have to make a living too. So yes, I understand that. 4 hours a day is a big chunk of time, but because at that time I was a journalist, I was able to do it, and because I was freelance. But in real estate here, even in the little towns here, there's some language school that'll give you 2 hours every other day or something like that, where you can fit it in, and then you're learning both at work and in the classroom. The thing about language learning that I realize is we have to think about how we learned our first language. We were a baby and we didn't understand anything, but our parents talked to us, and they talked to each other, and they talked to the other kids. And we acquired a language, not by translating, but by looking at what they're saying. So when we say taza, it's a cup, but we don't think cup and then translate it into taza. We think taza. And apple, you think manzana. You don't think about the English word and then translate it. And it's an art of learning, is to just eliminate, and it's called immersion in the language industry. My teachers, none of my teachers would speak one word of English to us. So it was the first couple of weeks, you sat there with a blank stare on your face, but it's soaked in, and that's very important. Go to a language school that goes by immersion. It for me is much more in depth and quicker.
So I could go on this conversation and talk about this, but yeah, I would agree. I would agree in general that that's it's an important thing. It should be prioritized, and the key thing you mentioned there as well is this idea of not translating, learning how to think. That's a big step that a lot of people struggle with. But yeah, I'm a language nerd, so I have a rule of cutting myself off after 5 minutes of language discussion, because I want to bring it back to real estate. And there's something here. We have a comment here from Carlos. So Carlos says, I'm looking for partners in Costa Rica. I'm an international realtor in Canada and Mexico. Such a great trajectory. Thomas, looking forward to connecting. Now,
of course, yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Carlos. So, I mean, he raises the subject there of networking, and here I'm curious to know your thoughts, because this is something, again, I've had a lot of conversations with connections who say that this is one of their skills that they struggle with, and that's networking. So although we have this amazing technology which allows us to have this conversation that we're having now, and to just send a message like Carlos has done, and it's so easy in that sense. On the other hand, actually building genuine connections and networking with people across the internet is not it's not as simple as it is to send a message. There's more to it. Now, you mentioned that you're not a social media wizard, but you have embraced it. Yeah, you've hired someone who is an expert, and you work with them. So what would be your advice to anyone working today about networking, other than what you mentioned before, local networking, by joining a local a club like the Rotary Club? What about international networking? How should people go about it in today's age?
For me, and that was one of the keys about going with a major brand, is that networking is almost automatic, and the referral system is guaranteed, because you're protected by a national, an international organization. I can get a referral from any realtor in the world, but at least through the Century 21 network, I know that they're going to honor me, and there'll be problems if they don't. And so one of the big things is, you look for the opportunities to network. And if there's a convention going on, and the Century 21 convention ends up being about $2,000 worth of expenses by the time you get there and have the hotel and everything. But the amount of contacts you make at an event like that, if you're conscious about it, and you just even get the business card or the connection now on WhatsApp with other realtors, it'll eventually pay off. I'm dealing with a realtor right now that I've known forever, but we just haven't done anything, just known him because he came by the office one time. And now we're doing a good deal together. And so it'll pay off. Just keep alert to the ways to network better. I do a newsletter once a month, and I send it out to all the people on my mailing list, a lot of whom are other realtors in the United States who have interest and experience and clients that are looking at Latin America. So that is a valuable tool, and it's a tool that now that I've got it set up so well, I have a huge amount of contacts internationally that when I send a newsletter out, it goes to about 15,000 people that I keep regular on my network. So those are important things. And also but looking at network the other way around, in an office, it's so important to those people are your partners, and the other agents and the partners, they're not your competition, and not even people in other offices. Our best friends are the REMAX people, because we want them to sell our property just as much as we want to sell it ourselves. And that's something that's different. In a lot of cultures, it would probably be like what it is here in Costa Rica. And initially, when I came down here, Costa Rican realtors were very hesitant to even share listings because they wanted the full commission themselves. And real estate is volume. Real estate is getting the job done and getting on to the next one. And I am happy that I share my property with 100 other realtors right here in town. So if a guy walks into their office instead of my office, he can still see my properties. And in your own office too, it's the same thing. Those are your buddies, those are your friends, and work with them and help them and do the teamwork part of it that makes you a cohesive unit, so that you share and help each other. And sure, you're not going to get the full commission. That doesn't matter. You're doing the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. And the more in our area that, for example, every single realtor here knows each other. We have actually open houses that are broker only, they're agent only open houses, where we just get together and network. And we look at the house, obviously, and we want to help sell the house, but it's a great time to touch base with other realtors and get news on what's going on in the area and what's going on in our industry.
Yeah, so this model you've described. So maybe you can probably educate me a little bit, or maybe let me tell you how I understand it, and tell me if I've got it right. Because I've the market. I mean, I'm not a realtor. Yeah, I'm someone who's worked in property management, the construction industry, then became an English teacher, and now I combine those things. But I spend every day basically immersed talking to realtors. I've been in the markets now for a few years, so I know quite a bit. But Italy is the market that I know most, just because that's where I started. I lived there for so long. And the way I have had it explained to me there is Italy is one of these places that it's just like Costa Rica, like you've described it, how it used to be, where and it's now opening up. So the kind of old model is every town has some local agents, local brokers, and they try to protect everything, keep it like their walled garden, so to speak. But now how I've had it described to me is this more, they call it an American model, the American model of people working together, buyers and sellers kind of working together and sharing commissions, is basically coming in and through various franchises and kind of taking over. And because it's more efficient, it's more friendly, it's creating a more friendly industry, a more friendly working environment. That's how I've had it explained to me in the Italian market. It sounds exactly the way you described it in Costa Rica. Have I got it right, or is there any key points that I've missed?
No, you're right. I was in manufacturing in the States for 30 years before I came down here, so I was not in the real estate market, but I have a number of relatives that are realtors in California, and yeah, that organized system didn't exist here, and now it does. And the local, thankfully, the local market, the local realtors and the local realty companies have recognized that, and quite a few have either created a local brand or taken on their own one of the international brands. So they have that sense of how to work things in an organized manner. It's not just running around calling from your kitchen table and getting a property and then finding someone to buy it. And it's much more of a professional industry now, which is very helpful. And obviously it's increased our volume. Not only that, but also now that everyone knows about Costa Rica and what we stand for, a pacifist country, a democracy, environmentally conscious country, that you're drawing a certain niche of client that it's easy to interpret to, and I think that's important.
Okay, so one of the things connected to this idea of working together, and you've mentioned it already in the start at the beginning, and so it's on my list of notes here, and I wanted to bring it up, and this is the use of WhatsApp and the lack of an MLS in Costa Rica. So just to clarify, why is there no large single platform in Costa Rica? Is it a legal issue, or is it a technical issue?
It's
A little bit of
more
everything.
cultural than anything else, I think. Still going back to that, it's unknown, and people don't understand. Well, so why do I have to pay this extra fee to be part of an organization and pay this extra fee to list my properties there? And actually, I believe, as you know, the National Board of Realtors in the United States, National Association of Realtors, had a major lawsuit that they lost, and they're becoming less and less relevant, associations like that, because of the internet. But on the other hand, I value those because those maintain an ethics standards, they maintain rules for the road. And when a government in a country like ours hasn't picked up their pace in regulating our industry, we have to do it ourselves, and that's why associations like that are good. But there's been 3 attempts to do a multiple listing service here, and it just has not. Maybe it's the size of our market; it's not big enough, or it's just that people are so used to the internet and being able to market their product individually or in office wise, that they don't want to add that extra layer on there. Now there's 2 sort of quasi MLSs that are trying to start again right now, and I've joined up with both of them. That it's a valuable thing to let everyone in the country know your properties, and everyone internationally know your properties, and any source. That's why I'm on all the different social medias. Maybe one's more effective than the other, but I'm going to hit all of them because it's worth it. Every one sale you make on a platform that costs you X amount of money, you've paid for a year with that platform. So why not get your product out there?
So, and as you mentioned, despite this lack of an MLS, there's been you have found a workaround with WhatsApp. And in our first conversation, you said that people, you commented on how efficient it is to share properties via WhatsApp. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, and how? Because I don't know if that's necessarily. I'm sure people in real estate in every country have used these different platforms to different levels, but the way you talked about WhatsApp was something that I haven't heard many other people mention. So how are you using WhatsApp in Costa Rica? What's been your experience so far?
Yes, it just became a natural thing. We started a group, a chat among the local realtors here, and it's grown, like I say, to 100 realtors in this area, which is pretty good for a county of 17,000 people, although on the weekends it's about 40,000 because we're the beach. But and we have a number in the country. I'm a member of a national WhatsApp, and it's called Seek and Find, and basically I take my link right off of my web page. Any listing I have linked on my web page, I just take that link and make a comment like new product available, new house, great location, and then put that link there. And so everybody immediately gets to see that. And every morning I flow through and look at all the new listings that other people have. And so it's an instant delivery of your product to all the other realtors. But on the other hand, the other way is I get a client saying, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom house with a pool near the beach. And I write that in WhatsApp, and everybody sends me their links, private message back to me with the link to that property. So it's a two-way system. And so I look at those requests every morning too, or all during the day, and answer them and send them my links that fit their needs.
Take a moment if you need to clear yourself.
No, I'm sold on WhatsApp, and it's free, and not only that, the international aspect of it. I can send these things everywhere in the world, and I can call my clients up or call my agents that I'm working with in another country for free on WhatsApp, and it's a marvelous system. I hope they don't. Whoever owns it now, I hope they're not going to start charging for it.
I think it's another one of I believe it's Meta. It's Facebook. It's one of the 3 or 4 companies that own everything, as you know, online. Yeah, it's in there. But yeah, it seems to have, it's always been fantastic. And it surprised me how long it took to get going, because I've been using it for more than 10 years. But then in some countries, it's still quite new.
Right. I would encourage any realty company or individual realtor to start talking on internet with their neighbors and their other agents. I know there's some areas, even in this country, where the realtors don't get along so well. Well, that's wrong. They need to start getting along, because they're partners. We're partners with every single other realtor in the world, because they have a client, I have a property. I have a client, they have a property. So it's a win-win. And people just have to remember, so what if I don't get the whole commission? I get more commissions. I get a part of a lot of commissions instead of by myself.
All right, Tom. So
I normally, and let me say just about this too, and I don't know, maybe it's my personality or whatever, but I love real estate, and that's why I haven't been able to retire. It's just fun. It's a people business, and your clients, your other realtors, they become your friends, and you work with them as friends, and that's important in WhatsApp too, because you communicate, you network back and forth, you help each other with everything. I mean, it's important to realize, or it's important that you enjoy your business and you enjoy doing what you're doing. If you're not getting some other business, that old saying, if you enjoy your work, you'll never work another day in your life. That's what it's like. It's that.
Yeah, I was just going to say to you, Tom, that I normally go for about 45 minutes on these calls unless people want to keep going. And did you have anything else to say? But I think that or anything else we haven't covered. But I think that's a great topic to speak about. And that's would you say that's a way you've always felt, or is it something that's come with experience or just working over time? Is it something unique that you got from being in Costa Rica and the different energy or different atmosphere? Where do you think that philosophy came from for you?
Actually, from my father, because I worked with my father in manufacturing, and I was on the sales end. And he said, look, those buyers at those department stores, which we had back in those days, those are your friends, and make them your friends. Become friendly with them. It's easy to become friends with almost anyone. So make it a point of your business as well, and enjoy the journey. Set your goals, but don't and have a target, but don't forget to enjoy the experience along the way. And part of that, because we're a people business, is enjoying the people you deal with. And sure, there's some clients I've had to fire over the years because I couldn't get along with them. But 99% of the people I've dealt with, I remain friends with for our whole life, at least up to this point. So I think that's important to pay attention to, and not just try to rush in and make a bunch of money and then retire at 40. Look at the long haul and realize that you're building up more than just a pocket full of money. You're building up a reputation. You're building your community, and you're really you're living life to its fullest, and especially being involved in the community. That's so essential. It's at least 50% of what I do nowadays is my community work, and now it'll be more now that I'm on city council.
Yeah, that's going to take up some time, I imagine, or some.
But it will help me in business, believe me.
So we've got a final comment here from Daniel. Thanks for taking the time, Thomas, to share all your knowledge with all the community. So yeah, let's just make sure I haven't missed. Let me just check my notes. I think we covered everything, actually.
I would encourage anyone that wants to please get a hold of me. And I'm, the thing is, in my heart, I love Costa Rica, and I love other people to love Costa Rica. And if you have any questions or clients are looking this direction, I'd be happy to help. And pro bono. I love helping people love Costa Rica. It's an incredible country. So definitely come and visit if you can't do anything else.
And what's the best way for people to get in contact with you, Tom? Is it via LinkedIn? Is it better they go to your website? What's the best way for them to do it?
I'm on them all. So anywhere you see me, WhatsApp to LinkedIn to emails, I'm available. You can give me a phone call. It's free on WhatsApp. So
fantastic. And they could just contact your name. I mean, your name's not too common, I imagine. Thomas Ghormley, Costa Rica. You'll be easy to find.
I'm the only Ghormley in Costa Rica. So.
And just actually a final thing to plug you mentioned your newsletter. So how do people sign up to your newsletter? Because if you've got 15,000 people in a newsletter, it must be quite good.
It's with 40 years, you get that many people coming along. But yeah, no, we cover local events, local what's happening, and then we list a few properties every time. And I'm sure you're going to be distributing my contact information. Let people know they contact me and I'll put them on my newsletter list. Everyone who contacts me gets on my newsletter list until they tell me they don't want to be there. So for sure, you talk to me, you'll be on my newsletter.
Well, what I can do is I'll drop in the comments, because this will stay up live on LinkedIn, and in the comments I'll drop a link to is there like a website where they can sign up? Is that right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I can drop that in there so people can. Oh, here we go. I think. Thank you very much, Syria. If I've said that correctly. Syria has shared this. So there we go. There you go. Thank you very much. You've done my job for me. I was going to do that afterwards, so people can go there. And
that's called teamwork. Syria is helping me.
Well, and she's also left another comment earlier on here. Oh, not that one. Not that one. Oh, everyone just moved. This one here. She left another comment. So, do you know each other, or does she know you by reputation?
No, she's the administrator of the office. So
fantastic. So, and final comment here. We've got another comment. We've got all the comments are coming through at the end as I'm trying to wrap things up. So Monzi said, "Excellent, Thomas. Thanks for sharing. Yes, this recording will stay live, and it will also go up on YouTube and anywhere else where Thomas might want to share it." And I think I'm going to add this final comment from Rita. Costa Rica is really awesome. So, I mean, you've definitely sold it to me through the way you've been speaking about it, and my girlfriend was already talking about it. Has been talking about it for a few months now. So it's on the, as you say, it appeals to a certain niche of people, definitely, or niche of people, and it's interesting to hear. It's definitely more on people's radar these days, shall we say?
Well, at the very least, when you come down, just drop in the Century 21 office. We're right downtown. Can't miss us. And I'd love to have you here.
Fantastic. All right, Thomas. So I'm going to end the stream, and that will say so. Bye, everyone. And I'll speak to you in a second, Thomas. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And bye-bye.
Bye-bye.